Hello everybody, welcome to the Just Joe channel. I don't know, it's just Joe. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, hit it for notifications. Today we're going to discuss batteries. We have discussed solar panels in one video, charge controllers in another video, inverters in another video. So now we're going to discuss batteries, which is what holds your power before you use it. The power comes in AC through the sun. It has to be stored in DC form before it is then turned back into AC for you to use in your house. So the solar panels come in segments of 5 to this bus bar, to the charge controller, which we have already discussed. And then goes to the batteries, and then from the batteries goes to the inverter, which therefore goes to the house, to a standard breaker box through that PVC pipe. So these particular batteries are 12 volt Mighty Max batteries. We started out with 12, we slowly added 8 more. So we are in a 48 volt system. This particular inverter is strictly for a 48 volt system. Some inverters are going to allow you to switch from 24 to 48 or 12 to 24. This charge controller is compatible with any and all. So we did a 48 volt system. This is 4 12 volt batteries. To make one 48 volt battery out of 4 12 volt batteries, you connect the positive of one, negative of one to the positive of the next, negative to positive, negative to positive. So once those 3 cables are connected, this is your positive terminal for your 48 volt battery, and this is your negative terminal for your 48 volt battery. So depending on how many 48 volt batteries you are going to use, this is 1, this is 2, it technically would keep going down, but I ran out of room. So this is 3, 4, and 5. So the negative of this top battery is one end, and the positive of the 5th battery over here is your other end. So this positive connects to the charge controller, the inverter. This negative connects to the charge controller and inverter. So on your positives, go back over here. On the positive end to the inverter, you are going to want to have a fuse. So this red cable here goes to I believe it's a 200 amp fuse, and then goes to the inverter. This wire here should be red, but it goes to another fuse back there, and then goes to the charge controller. So that's just being safe. If something's going to break, it's going to break the fuse, not the charge controller, not the inverter. So this is your positive end of one end. So it's got to go to all components, and your negative end of the opposite end is going to go to the same components. So these 4 connected together to make one 48 volt battery. Then this connection here is connected to the next battery, and so on, to connect all batteries together, and same with this. So this is connected to the negative below it. I'm sorry, it's such a tight squeeze in here. And then the negative of this one is connected to the 3rd battery over here, and then that back negative is connected to this, and that back negative is connected down there. So we technically have 5 48 volt batteries. When choosing a battery type, every battery type is going to have pros and cons. We went with absorbent glass matte batteries. They are obviously a lot cheaper than lithium ion batteries. Lithium ion batteries have perks too, but they are also very expensive at $175 each. This battery system was not cheap. So when choosing a battery type, you are going to want to make sure that it is compatible with the inverter that you're going to be using. Like we discussed in the inverter video, on the battery type selector, you can choose many types of batteries for this inverter. We are on a number 2 because we are using AGM or absorbent glass mat batteries. The charge controller, you don't have to change that parameter, but you want to make sure your inverter is compatible with what battery type you're using, along with the voltage type you plan on going with. So this particular inverter is a 48 volt inverter. Some inverters you buy are going to allow you to change that parameter. So if we went with a 24 volt system, this inverter would not be compatible. There are some inverters where you can change that, just like you can change the battery type on this one. But this is strictly a 48 volt inverter. So we have a 48 volt configuration. And like I said, negative to positive, negative to positive, negative to positive. And then connect this battery to the next, to the next. And then you're going to use the negative end of one and the positive end of the other to hook up to your system. Your charge controller and your inverter do not know each other exist. I have said this before and I will say it again. They both simply connect to the batteries. So one is feeding the batteries and one is taking out of the batteries, but they do not know each other are there. You can tell this, for instance, by the battery voltage. This charge controller says 50.4 volts, and this says 50.8 volts. So they don't know each other are there. A lot of people have a hard time understanding that. They are simply, one is feeding and one is taking away from. Yes, they happen to be on the same terminal, but that does not mean they know each other exist. So when wiring your batteries together, you do want to make sure that your cables are big enough to handle the current going through them. These are number 2 gauge wires. I will leave a link in the description. Like I said, pretty much everything in this system came from Amazon except the charge controller. That's the only thing I didn't get from Amazon. The bus bars, the wires, the batteries themselves, the solar panels themselves, down to the inverter, all came from Amazon. So just make sure that the wires you are using are big enough to handle the current going through them. You don't want them to get too hot and cause an explosion or a fire. Nobody wants that. Luckily, that has not happened to me either. Something else I will say that I did learn, I didn't break anything, but don't wear jewelry. If you wear rings, if you have a wedding ring, take it off. Even there was one day it was really hot and I was sweating really bad out here, and I leaned over this right here and I felt like I was being shocked. So you want to be really careful. Obviously you're working with high voltage, so yeah, don't wear your jewelry. Even this necklace, I really probably shouldn't be wearing it right now, and I'm wearing it in a video. But yeah, you don't want to have a ring on while connecting this battery to that battery and accidentally electrocute yourself or blow something up. So no jewelry, no jewelry. I guess we could talk about the actual batteries that I'm using. These are Mighty Max batteries. Like I said, I'll leave a link in the description. These are 12 volt batteries. They cost around $175 each. You can wire them together to have 2 24 volt batteries if you're doing a 24 volt system, or you can do what I did and wire 4 together to make a 48 volt system. If you're using a standard 12 volt system, you can obviously use them as a standard 12 volt battery. That kind of comes as common sense. But this particular battery did say 15 years on it. Financially speaking, I will say I'm very pleased with how they've done. I think we started out with 12 and then added 8. We had 12 4 years ago, and then 3 years ago we added 8 more. But I will say I'm very pleased with them. With any type of battery, batteries do not like cold weather. So I know a lot of people will have them in an enclosure with carpet or something. I did not. They're strictly, we built 2x4 shelving. So they would have good ventilation. And then we have double bubble. That sounds funny. It's double bubble. Double bubble attic foil. It's like an attic insulation. We wrap the inside of that onto this, what we call the energy room. They don't like cold weather, but that being said, obviously it can get too hot also. So in the cold months, you know, they do drain a little faster. And then in the summer months, there is a soffit vent behind here and a soffit vent behind there that I'll take this double bubble pieces of double bubble off so everything can get ventilation. This does have a fan internally in it, and obviously this has a fan. This actually has 2 fans internally, so it does help the fans to have a little airflow. Like I said, if you have the ability to build a box to keep your batteries happy and warm, that's probably best. But as you can see in here, we pretty much have everything in here. It kind of has turned into a storage shed for everything. We try to keep it organized, but it doesn't seem very organized. 12-volt batteries wired together to make one big 48-volt battery. You want to make sure your wires are big enough. You obviously want to wire it the proper way. You want to hook it up the proper way. If I was to hook this positive to this negative and so on, we could have done that and then used the opposite ends, but that'll get confusing if I start going there. So positive to negative, positive to negative, positive to negative. And then the terminals that are still not wired are the ones that you're going to connect to the next battery below or beside it. And then one end's negative and the opposite end of the spectrum's positive are what's going to hook up to your system. So I think I pretty much covered the basis. Main thing is just make sure your wires are big enough. Make sure you don't wear jewelry. Make sure you go with a battery type that you know that you're going to like and be able to use, because my cousin, for instance, messaged me and had a picture of a 12-volt lithium-ion battery. Obviously, I cannot use that in the system because these are AGM batteries. You can't mix your batteries. Brands, yes. Ages, yes. It is obviously better to go with all the same age batteries also, if you can. But if you can't, you know, you got to do what you got to do. So, no jewelry. Same battery type. I feel like I covered everything and I'm going to start rambling. I will say once again, charge controller wise, do not hook your solar panels up to your charge controller without having your batteries hooked up first. So these 2 wires are from the batteries. One is from the negative end of this battery and one is from the positive end of that battery way over there, and they go in here like we discussed in another video. When adding something to the system, you're going to do the plus sign first because you're adding it. So if we were hooking this up for the first time, we would hook the positive end of the battery up to the positive end of the battery terminal in here, and then the negative. If we were unhooking the battery right now to do, I don't know why we would do that, but you would take the negative battery terminal out first and the positive battery out last. But like I said, never hook your solar panels up to this without batteries. So if we were unhooking this, we would take the black solar power wire out first, because we are subtracting the system, and you always want to have your battery hooked up. So you would take the negative out, then take the positive out, then take the negative battery out, and then the positive battery out. You want to do it in that order. If you're hooking up the system, you're adding the system, so you would do the plus from the batteries first, then the negative from the batteries second. That would kick this on, you would see a little light, and then you would go ahead and add your positive PV and your negative PV. So that's the order in which you hook everything up to here. No different if you're jumping off a car or hooking this up. So if we were taking this off, we would take this off first and this off second. If we were putting this together, we would put this one on first and then put this one on. So I think I covered everything about batteries in this video. Watch the other videos for a full system analysis, and we will be making more videos in the future. I hope I covered everything. If I did not, feel free to comment and I will answer the question, or possibly make another video. So anyways, you guys have a good day and take care.